My boyfriend just found out I've slept with both of my guy best friends, and now he's demanding I distance myself from them, but I think that's an unreasonable request. Let me start right off with the problem. My two best friends in the world are men, and I've slept with both of them. It's not as bad as it seems, though. It's not like I have feelings for either of them. They're both childhood friends whom I've known for years and years, so I love them both with all of my heart, but the thought of being in a relationship with either of them is unfathomable. One of them, we'll call him Rob, is married now, but we had a brief relationship senior year of high school. We broke up after less than a year for several reasons. I wanted to travel abroad for university, he wanted kids and I didn't. His mother didn't think I was a good fit for him, I know, but we still remained friends. The other, we'll call him John, is a bit more complicated. I would never date him, because he has serious issues. And it's not so much the issues that stop me from dating him, but the fact that he adamantly refuses any kind of help or therapy for them. He had some major childhood trauma that he's big time repressing, and it's affected his ability to have a relationship. He's a bit of a womanizer. After I got back from university abroad, I was 23 and all alone and I needed a place to live. His parents had moved out to a condo on the beach and they let John live in their old house. And he offered me one of the spare bedrooms for very low rent. So we lived together for a while without incident. I dated a guy for like 2 years, and John had a constant stream of women in and out of his bedroom. But we discovered a system that worked for us, and we became closer than ever. The problem was, one night about a year after I broke up with my ex, we hung out in the house alone and got drunk together. We were both super feeling it and hooked up, and we had amazing love making. Like, really, mind-blowing. I don't know if it was because I was drunk or because I'd only slept with 2 other people in my life who were both subpar. Rob and I had our V cards, and we only made love like twice before we broke up. And one of the main reasons I split with my other ex was intimately incompatible, but either way, it was great and we didn't want to stop. So we kept hooking up for about 8 months. At that point, one of his old exes came back into his life, and he realized he had feelings for her. We tried to stop hooking up, but quite frankly, we have no self-control. I realized I was 29 and had a steady job and there was no reason I shouldn't move out. So I left. We had one last night of our fun the day before I moved out and agreed to never talk about it again. Now, my current boyfriend came into my life. Sam had been a longtime co-worker of mine. We started working together when I got my job at 26. He was 29 and getting divorced. He told me all about it as it was happening. He and his wife got married way too fast. She had just broken up with her ex, and 5 months into dating Sam, she discovered she was pregnant with her ex's child. She pressured Sam into marriage because she didn't want to be a single mom, and he agreed. You can imagine why this didn't work out. Anyway, Sam and I became best friends in the workplace. He would tell me stories about his divorce, and I would tell him embarrassing childhood stories about Rob and John. Oh yeah, didn't I mention? We all work together. Rob and John are in different departments, but it's a pretty close-knit company. So he knew I had dated Rob in high school, but he never knew about me hooking up with John. When I told him I was moving out of John's house, he asked me why, and I just said that we were getting older and it was time for me to get my own place, which was absolutely true. That just happened to be the day that he confessed his longtime feelings for me, and we began to date. Now to the problem. About half a year ago, we decided to move in together. His lease was ending and I owned my house, so he moved into my place. He sometimes works really late nights, and on occasion I'll have Rob or John over to keep me company when he does. Last night he was meant to be working until 11 p.m. John was here and we were hanging out in the living room. It was about 10:30 p.m., and we were drinking a bit and talking kind of loudly. John mentioned to me that his girlfriend was always jealous and worried that he and I had feelings for each other. I said that was silly, and that just because 2 people have great love-making, doesn't mean they're in love. As I said, we were talking pretty loudly, so I guess Sam came in at some point and heard me say that. I didn't even hear him unlock the front door. But he stormed into the living room and confronted me, asking when John and I made love. He looked equal parts disappointed and angry. John left because he didn't want to be involved in our argument. I explained everything. I told him John and I used to hook up when we lived together, and that was part of the reason I moved out of his place, because it wasn't healthy for us to have that kind of relationship. It had been 4 years and we rarely ever spoke about it, and it hasn't affected our friendship at all. Sam now tells me he's uncomfortable with the fact that I have slept with both of the people I consider my best friends in the world. He's also uncomfortable with the fact that, just a few days before he and I got together, I made love with John. He says it taints our entire relationship because I lied to him about it. I think he's being a bit puritanical about it. Of course I have an intimate past, and why does it matter if it was only a few days before, since it didn't mean anything? It's not like I had feelings for John. And we always used protection and frequently got tested, and I told Sam that, so it's not like he's concerned about the health risks. He's just jealous. And he wants me to hang out with John less, and he doesn't feel comfortable with us drinking together at all. He also insists I should make new friends and separate myself a bit from Rob and John, because it's weird that both of the people I'm closest with are people who have seen me without clothes on. I think he's being entirely unreasonable. John and I are both in relationships, and we have no feelings for each other whatsoever. The fact that we hooked up with each other for a while is something we want to leave in the past. And to bring Rob into it is just ridiculous. It's been 15 years since we had anything to do with each other romantically, and he's now married with kids. I think Sam just wants to punish me or something because he's weirdly jealous. I honestly don't know what to make of this situation. Update: I know it's over a year later and probably no one remembers this post. But I will never forget it because hearing from all you Redditors changed my life and saved my relationship. So if there's anyone here who read my last post, you deserve to know that you were right. After reading all the comments on the last post, I realized that Sam was not overreacting at all and would have been more than reasonable to break up with me because of this. I showed him my post, and we had a long discussion in which I promised I would never hang out with Rob or John alone again. I told him I loved him so much and he was the most important person in my life and I would do anything to gain his trust back, even if he wanted me to stop seeing my friends altogether. He said that wasn't necessary, and he didn't mind if I saw them alone occasionally, just he would prefer if it were in public, and not late at night or with alcohol involved. He felt sorry for being judgmental of me, but I told him that he was completely right and my relationship with John was inappropriate. I just needed something like this to make me see it. So we moved past it fairly easily and are actually now married. It was a courthouse wedding on our 5th anniversary, very lovely. Now here's the part where everyone was right. After my conversation with Sam, John and I drifted apart a bit. I still hung out with Rob and his wife, but John broke up with his girlfriend and I no longer felt comfortable being with him alone. So he and I would hang out with Rob, but that happened maybe once or twice a month, where before we would see each other a few times a week. Then last Thanksgiving when Sam and I announced we were getting married, John actually left dinner early. He replied shortly to all my messages, didn't return my calls, and barely spoke to me. I didn't see him again until my wedding in December. You can guess where this is going. Thankfully nothing happened at the wedding, although that would have made for a great screenplay, as someone in a comment on the last post mentioned. It was a small ceremony, just our families, a couple of Sam's friends, Rob, his wife, and John. We went out to a restaurant for a reception dinner and John seemed withdrawn the entire time. I guess he was not happy that I was married. So since Sam and I got back from our honeymoon in January, I have seen John maybe twice, once for Easter and again for Rob's birthday. I've tried to say hi at work, but he always makes an excuse and walks away. He didn't even come to Sam's birthday last month. After that I decided that I would stop trying to reach out to him, and he could talk to me when he was ready. Last week he was finally ready. Sam was offered an opportunity to travel abroad for 8 months with his job, with me invited to come along. We decided to accept it, and I suppose John saw Sam's Facebook post about it because the next day John sought me out at work. He asked me if I was really leaving the country for 8 months, and when I said yes, he asked why I couldn't stay. I asked why he cared if I stayed when we hadn't really spoken in months. He said I'm sorry. Never mind. And walked away, but at that point it was clearer than ever what was really going on. So Sam and I are leaving in September. His job will still be waiting for him when he gets back, but I have decided to find a new one. I'm glad that I'll be out of the country for a bit. I feel really stupid to not have realized that John could have feelings for me. There's never been anything there on my end, so I just assumed it was the same for him since we were able to be roommates and friends with benefits. It seems obvious now. Everyone who commented on my last post was spot on about our relationship not being normal, and I am so glad that Reddit was able to see what I wasn't. I am so deliriously happy in love with my husband. I don't even want to think about what would have happened had I not posted here. So thank you all again, and I hope this update is in some way satisfying.